Hello, everyone, and welcome to Comics episode 41. We know we've been taking some time off here and there, but we wanted to prepare you for all the stuff that is coming in the near future. And as in phase 2, we keep teasing it and hinting at it. Soon things will be coming down the pipeline. Now, I'm your host, Technique, and I'm sitting here with my co-host, Matt, aka Nighthawk Plays. Ooh, it's been a while, man, but we're here. How you doing?
We're here. It's an awesome Saturday for many reasons, which, I mean, if you look at the title, chat, you'll understand why. But doing well, Frank. Doing well. How about yourself? You doing good? Everything's good?
I'm doing as much as I can. The world is a very interesting place right now. And waking up every day, I should say I'm blessed with that. But, we're going to try to keep striving and moving forward. But I'm doing absolutely well now because today is a special day. This show is a wonderful guest on it. And This week we're going to be welcoming Marc. Oh, I was hoping you would follow up, Matt, but it's okay.
Oh, Bernardin.
We ain't there yet.
Bernardin.
There you go.
Marc
all right. Marc Bernardin. You probably know him from so many projects. First of all, I just want to say welcome to the show. I could give you the best intro, but I would love for you to give our audience a little bit about yourself, and then we can go fanboy after.
Excellent. Happy to do it, and super happy to be here. Thank you for the invite. Let's see. Who am I? What do I do? I am a television writer of shows like Star Trek Picard and Master of the Universe Revelations and Castle Rock and Treadstone and Critical Role. The Adventures of Vox Machina, Legend of Vox Machina. I write comic books. Most recently, a book called Adora and the Distance, out from Dark Horse and Comixology, and I do a podcast with an indie director of some renown, Kevin Smith, called
Never heard of him. Never heard of him. Never heard of him.
Yeah. I mean, one of these days he's going to break big. Just you wait.
Yeah. Well, what can we say? Yeah, man, and wears many, many hats and has hands in many projects. I'm going to start off by asking a personal question because anytime we get someone on here that's done as much. I mean, I think you kind of hold a record of the many things you've done and are doing. You go from, this is a show about comics, but we like the world around comics. We're not just centralized on comics. I mean, comics influence so many different things. You went from TV to comic books to movie. I mean, all over the place. What is your favorite if you had to pick one? And where does comics fit in there?
I think that of them all, there is still a piece of me that's always going to be a comic book dude. Because there's a lovely unfiltered quality of comics that you don't get in any other medium, really, other than podcasting, where there's nobody telling you what you can and cannot say, and you do go like directly to an audience. But it's that idea that you're publishing a thing, a mass media property, where there's 3 people reading it before the audience does. There's you rereading it, there's the artist reading it to interpret it, and then the editor, who is the guy who can sort of backstop you and whatever. But then it goes to the readers. But in television, like the more money you're spending to make a thing, the more people there are in the way of that who all need to say it's cool. And so TV, the budgets are an order of magnitude higher than comics. So there's going to be more people saying like, oh, how about this? How about that? I'm not sure you can do that. We don't want you to do this. You absolutely cannot do that. And so there's always some version of compromise in TV. But comics, man, it's unfiltered. It is, unless you're writing Superman, you can kind of do whatever you want, and it's somewhat unique in that fashion. Literature gives you that sort of direct main line into an audience's mind and gives them the version of the story that you feel the most passionate about. So yeah, I mean, it was one of my first loves, and it remains, like when I get to do comics, and at this point I'm only doing them because I love them. That's the reason why.
Love that answer.
You're doing what you love, which is amazing. I actually have a little bit of a follow-up to that, Frank and Marc. So we were talking a little bit before about, turning 25, growing up a little bit. And there was something very interesting that I love that I read and I dove into about you was you had a goal for when you turned 50. I know this isn't comic books, but there was something very specific you wanted to get done. And somewhat spoiler, congratulations to kind of getting there on the Kickstarter. But can you tell the audience what you're talking about? Because I read about that. I saw it. I'm like, that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I went to college 1,000 years ago to be a filmmaker. Like I wanted to be the nerd Spike Lee. because grew up in New York, went to school in Queens. Like I was all about that, and then clearly, like everybody else was, just completely inspired by, she's got to have it and School Days and Do the Right Thing and wanting to be that person. And then I fell into journalism. And I was a journalist for 20 years. And then I fell into comic books and TV. And then I've been doing that for about 10 years. But that piece of me that wanted to be a filmmaker never actually faded away. It was an ember that I kind of kept blowing on once a year to try and keep that alive. And so I made myself a resolution about 5 years ago that by the time I turned 50, I wanted to write and direct a movie. At the time I said feature because I was also feeling particularly ambitious in this pie in the sky asinine idea that I went like a moron and made public. But it dawned on me that making a film, I didn't have to put a time limit on it. I didn't have to put a running time, stipulation. And so I was like 49 years old, and it's like, you know what? I wrote this short. I think it was like early in the pandemic. I was like, here's a short that I want to do. I got nothing but time. I have a bunch of actor friends who are currently not busy. And Kevin Smith, the eternal cheerleader, was like, just do it on Kickstarter, man. Just come on, just do it. There's a bigger audience than you know exists out there. We've never tapped into them for anything. We give them podcasts for free. You come into their ears once a week and you tell them stuff that they like, or sometimes they don't like. But at the very least, there's a relationship there that you've never taken advantage of. He's like, I sell them shit all the time. And so, I wrote this short called Splinter, cast a bunch of friends, went on Kickstarter, and in the first 12 hours, we made our nut.
Which is amazing. Wow. Congratulations again.
Yeah. Thank you. And then, over the course of the 30-day campaign, we then made our nut 3 times over. And the one, and it's, nobody could have anticipated that we would hit like an Omicron surge just as we were heading into production. And so we missed my 50th birthday by a week.
Whoa.
Oh, but how we made it look,
come on, everything was set,
minus,
the
the icing was almost there.
Almost there, man.
The power of crowdfunding has, and we thank the internet for all the negative stuff daily in, day out, but man, where we are today in the relationship we can have with directors and writers and actors and stuff, like it's that bridge is so short now, and we realize how small the world is. People are so willing to give because they want to see good creativity and they want to feel like they've been a part of it. And those are the people that dream. But now they don't just dream, they can actually lend to other people's dream. And seeing Kickstarter, I feel like it's such a wonderful thing, especially when you deliver. So that's amazing.
There's something lovely, I think, about as a fan, as an aspirant, as somebody who just wants to be in this world, to be able to get in the same boat with a bunch of people who feel the same way and pull the same direction. Like we're all rowing this boat. And so that feeling of momentum, that feeling of like, it's my $5 that's going to get this thing done, and then to be able to have another thing on the other side of it. It's like, you dropped some people, as little as $5 or $10, some people a lot more money who I will never be able to pay this debt back, in exchange for a 15-minute short. But the feeling of support, the feeling of just, we're cheering for you, man. Like we want you to make the thing happen. I remain incredibly humbled by it and grateful for it because it's, I kept telling Kev, like, I don't think this is going to happen. I am going to have to kick in some of my own money on the 29th day just to get over the hump. I'm more than willing to do that.
Within those 12 hours, how many times did you click refresh?
Almost never, because I was in a writer's room.
I was gonna say, I kind of felt like you were either gonna always do it or
surprise.
Just wait,
I was working, but like Kevin would be blowing up my text. You're like 10 grand away, man. 7 grand away. Like, he's giving me the countdown until it's like, you got it. You made it. So proud of you.
Oh,
my
God. What a
That's
great
awesome.
feeling, especially not to even be tracking it because you're automatically thinking, oh, we'll check it in a few days, and it's in hours.
Nothing's going to happen. Like, we just kicked it live at midnight. We'll see what goes on. And by lunch the next day, Kevin is like, you fucking did it, man.
You did it. That's amazing. Well, you not only have you done that, you've done something very, very awesome lately, and we have a book, and that's the big reason why you're here. Thanks to Comicology for bridging the gap.
Yes.
Adora in the Distance. Wow, what an accomplishment, and what a story! I picked it up on Kindle, and I am ready to dive into it. If you can give us a little direction into Adora in the Distance.
Yeah, I mean, it's a book very much inspired by my experience raising a child on the autism spectrum, you know,
Mm.
and specifically in that when my kid was diagnosed, it was like 2.5 years old. I had a bunch of friends who were like, "Well, you should write about this experience. It's great fodder for a memoir or whatever." I'm like, "But I don't want to write about me. Like, I'm the least interesting person in the story." And the particular quirk of my daughter's condition is that I don't have very much access to her internal thoughts. She's not particularly vocal about how she's feeling or what
Mm.
she's looking for, or if she's happy or sad. Like, I can kind of tell. Like, I've gotten really good at decoding her,
Mm.
but I don't know if she's particularly content. I don't know if she's fantasizing about anything. I don't know what's happening inside her brain. And so the idea was, let me imagine what's happening inside her brain. What is the adventure that she's on that I have no access to? What's the journey
Mm.
that she's walking that I can never travel with her? And so
Wow.
what does that feel like? And so, because I'm a nerd who grew up reading like Conan the Barbarian and Lord of the Rings
Oh
and
yeah.
all that stuff, it manifested as a quest fantasy. It manifested as we've got a plucky band of adventurers, led by a young woman of destiny who's got to go from point A to point B and
Mm.
survive the journey and learn some stuff along the way and do battle with underground river pirates and lava monsters and fields of razor grass and all this stuff, and just to ultimately confront the thing that has been sort of haunting her entire world for her whole life. And it was always designed to be the sort of thing that if you were a kid who came to it, it's just a fun adventure.
Mm.
Like, it's just, especially if you were a little girl, it's like, how many little girl adventures do you get? Like, not a
Right.
ton, really. So, like, let's do that. Why not? That's an audience who I'm sure would love a book that they could read and see themselves in. And if you're older, if you're a person of 20 or 30 years old, like, all right, cool. There's a coda to this that gives it a different sort of a flavor.
Mm.
Not quite Twilight Zone or Sixth Sense, but still, it does twist the story that you've been reading and give you new perspective on it. And if you're an older person who maybe has kids, who maybe has a kid on the spectrum, it might just give you a different perspective on your own kid. Like, they're the things that we will never know. I mean, hell, they're the things we
Right.
will never know about typical children,
Yes.
because kids can be cagey, kids can be a little solitary, kids can be assholes. We don't talk very much about the asshole kids, but they
I was
100%
one.
can be. Um, but the feeling that both every kid has some element of universality to them,
Yeah.
and also that every kid on the spectrum is different than every other kid on the spectrum.
Yes.
So it was making a specific story that I was hoping could have a universal appeal, because I think that's the thing that I've learned in the last like 10 or 15 years of being a pop culture sort of omnivore, and
Mm.
getting to eventually help to make that stuff, is that it's the specific stories that stick with us. It's not the blanding stuff out. It's not the just making it like everyone has a way in. It's like, no, it's a specific way in. And
Mm.
because it's specific, it then becomes universal. It's like, I am not that person, but I bet you that person really exists, because that person feels like he's real, or feels like she's got a very unique view on the world. And
Yeah.
so finding that specific thing that's the lever to let everybody else in. That was always the hope. And the fact that people have responded to this book in any kind of way warms my heart.
Awesome.
Wow.
What an
Yeah. And
answer.
and it's essentially 19 years in the making, correct?
Yeah, I mean, it's she's going to be 20 years old in November, and so it's been sort of mulling around in some fashion or another in my head for about 17 years.
Wow.
Like the book itself can drive, it can
Mm.
almost vote.
So I have to ask, how did she take the story? Like, did she read it yet, or did she know about it, or?
Not really. I mean,
Oh.
she's not that kid. She may never be that kid who wants to sit
Mm.
down and read a comic book.
True.
But that she does love. She likes paging through stuff. And so, yeah, she's got her copy in her room that, there's a couple pages that are a little bent more than others. But
Oh,
you can
what
see
a
the
feeling.
cuts fine for the places she likes. But yeah, and it's certainly like solitary moments where she'll do the thing. She'll never show me because, again, some kids are assholes.
Never show dad. Never show dad. Oh man,
so cute.
I mean, Frank brought up at the beginning, and you said obviously a lot of the amazing properties that already existed that you worked on. One that I do want to talk to you about later, Masters of the Universe. You brought this to life. This was your baby, and in doing so, you had a chance to kind of pick and choose where you wanted to go in certain ways, whether it's art, penciling. How was it different than working on Superman, number one, and like as far as like an open canvas for you? But how did you go through picking essentially who you wanted to work with to bring this to life?
Well, I had found Ariella Cristantina, who's this phenomenal artist. She lives in Jakarta, but she did go to school here, I want to say in SCAD, in the Savannah School of the Art and Design. And I had found her website. I was looking for an artist for Genius, for the second volume of a book that I do for Top Gal called Genius, and stumbled onto her thing, and I was in love with it. Like, there's just this beautiful quality to her line. It's intricate, but it's emotive, and she gets such great performances out of her drawings. But the timing didn't work out, and she was busy doing one thing, and we needed to move on something else. And so, ships in the night. That's totally cool. But then when Comixology was like, "Well, who do you want to do this book?" I was like, "Can we get Ariella? Can we please get Ariella?" And they were like, "We know exactly who that is, and we've been dying to work with her."
Awesome.
And so like reached out to her, and she was like, "This sounds great. Here's my schedule. If it works, happy to do it." And it's this amazing synthesis, and it only really happens in comics to me. I mean, it happens in a way in television when you start seeing dailies for stuff, but dailies are like the worst version of a TV show. Like, they're always awful. They, even a first cut of an episode of anything is the worst thing you've ever seen. And the hope is, the faith you have is that we can find the good that we know is in there, but it's going to take some work. But that feeling of writing a comic book and then seeing designs come through and pages come through, it's the most amazing feeling, because suddenly it's real. It had been words on a page, but now I see what it is. And Ariella invested herself in this to such a degree that I have never seen an artist do on anything that I've worked on before, because she's got to create a world. Like other books that I've done, they've all been very mundane in that there's no fantasy really. Like Genius took place in South Central LA. The Highwayman was just an action movie from the 80s. Like, even the Authority stuff, the Authority had already been built before, so we're just putting into that. But this was Ariella having to build a world from scratch, and then all the influence she would take. It's like, I want to, for this port city that we're saying is kind of like Lisbon, or maybe it's Madrid or something like that. And so I want to take some Moorish influences from here, and a bit of Morocco, and a little bit of this, and I've got some spires that I love from Baghdad, and she's just like weaving this whole thing, and just watching her synthesize all of these influences into something new was just the most beautiful thing. And then when she got to designing characters, when she started sketching what Adora would look like, the book doesn't specify at all her race. All it says is that she's a 9-year-old girl who's very adventurous and plucky, and she's got a bunch of spirit, and she's always dressed a bit like a tomboy, even though there's a dress, and she goes about her business. And it was Ariella who, in her first passes, drew her as a brown girl with big locks of curly hair. And it just hadn't occurred to me before. And then she was like, "Well, of course she is. Like, she's your kid, so why wouldn't she look a bit like you?" And then I'm
okay.
Oh my God. He gets it. Oh,
you
man.
can't see my face right now. There are tears on my keyboard. But that's the magic of comic books. That's the magic of inviting somebody into your world and giving them license to make it their own. And they're going to surprise you as often as they conjure the thing you always had in your head. And that's ultimately why I'll never stop doing comics, because of that moment where you get to be surprised by your own work.
Wow, I had no idea you didn't give her that direction, and that's got to be a beautiful thing, just to see someone creatively bring a world together that you a lot of us can envision stuff, but we can't put it into words. And just to see someone else be able to like have that sync with you and bring it out, that's pretty dang amazing. I was going to ask you that question is like, we talk about this quite often because it's in the media more now because people are not afraid to hide behind it. But representation is a huge deal. It can be a deal and a deal breaker to a lot of people because a lot of people hold themselves back because they feel like the color of their skin or their ethnic background will hold them back. What message would you give the world? You've been in the game for such a long time. I'm pretty sure you have seen all the ups and downs so far and probably undiscovered ones. What advice would you give the folks listening to keep persevering for their dreams?
I mean, before I broke into TV in a real way, I had written about 5 or 6 pilots. And the writing was good enough that like my representation didn't bounce me, that I still had some connections in the business, but I hadn't gotten staffed on a TV show. And as I kept writing those pilots, I'm a kid born in the 70s, grew up in the 80s. Almost all of the movies that I loved were movies that had white protagonists because by and large, that was the audience that was what was made, so I was a huge, Mel Gibson fan and a huge, Harrison Ford fan and a huge Sigourney Weaver fan and a huge, like, everybody was in my mind, like that was just what you did. And so when I started to write, a lot of my protagonists were like white dudes because that's what I grew up watching and grew up reading and grew up loving. But as I sort of began to find myself, I think, as I began to find my voice and as I began to incorporate the whole of who I am into the work that I did, and then the characters began to reveal a world that I was familiar with, and even though like working in Hollywood, there's only ever going to be one black dude in a room at a time. There's a handful of us black nerds who are professional TV writers. We joke when we go to the movies, somebody's got to sit behind in the bunker just in case a bomb goes off and there can be a black nerd left in
available.
Hollywood.
Oh my God. The survival antics.
Yeah, it's like who's the Secretary of Education that we got to hide away.
Pass it on. Can't let it die out. I feel you on that. Oh my God.
Once I began to infuse the work with as much of myself as I could. And that also meant being a father. That meant being a father of a child on the spectrum. That meant being a man of a certain age. That meant being a man from a certain place. The work got better, and then people began to take note. And so the thing that I always recommend people do is find a way to put yourself in the work, and the yourself that's specific. It's not just enough to be like, I'm a black guy or I'm an Asian lady. It's tell me about that life and what makes that and how you've synthesized that. And even if you're doing some crazy ass time travel thing or some amazing space travel thing or whatever, like find a way to put you in it. And once you do that, then the audience reading it can A, understand you can write, but B, understand who you are and then what they can hopefully tap into for their own work. So don't hide yourself. Like, I can only say from experience, the more of myself ended up in the work, the better the work was. And the better the work is, the better chance you have. It's always a long shot in Hollywood. It's always, the odds are ever not in your favor. But the only advantage you have is by being the most you that you can be.
Awesome. Wow. Made me feel, I was feeling pretty down today because this business, entertainment business as a whole is fluctuating. And unfortunately we are numbers, and no matter what, it's either your audience, it's how many reviews you have, how many subscribers you have, you name it down the board. And, the times gets hard. And sometimes I'm like really hard on myself. So having you here today and these words has really, really brought me up. So I just want to say personally, as someone who's always pushing himself out there and looking at those barriers that people put up and say, oh, maybe it's because of this, your race, or maybe it's because your height, or maybe it's because, your build or whatever. The fact that I can hear from you that it's okay to keep putting yourself into it and keep pushing, that means a lot. So thank you for that.
Yeah, man. I mean, the thing that I had to realize as I was getting the doors closed in my face was that Hollywood is a business of no. It runs on no, because no is way easier than yes. Because if you say yes to a thing, suddenly you have to justify that yes up the ladder, And so to a certain degree, it's never personal. It's just, I got to keep my phony baloney job. And the easiest way for me to do that is to say, I don't want to take a chance on this person because it's always a chance. Are we going to spend $100 million on this thing? Are we going to hang $100 million show on this person? and the easiest answer is no, because nobody questions no. But it's the minute a person says yes, like, oh, really? Why? Explain it to me why.
Right.
Then it's got to go up the ladder. Then it's got to go up the ladder. And then it's got to go to the head of the studio. As you, a tiny schmuck, has to say, I fell in love with this thing and I think it could be good. Because that's all you're going on. It's all taste. There's no science. There's no math. It's, I liked it. I think other people will too. And if you are wrong, then that's your job. And so when I realized that that's just how the business is built, it took a certain burden off, because then it's not my fault that it didn't work.
Yes.
It's like I didn't do anything wrong. Like and then it becomes on me to make myself undeniable and make myself irresistible. And then how can I do that? But the no's are going to happen because the no's are what the business eats.
It's true.
And so once I took the personality out of it, once I took the rejection out of it, then it got to be a much easier place to survive, if not navigate, because it is so hard to be a person who routinely puts themselves out there. And like, I'm going on this edition, I'm writing this spec, I'm sending out this pilot, and to have doors close in your face, like, it gets really hard. And especially for actors, man, I can't imagine the various and sundry ways that an actor has to process a litany of no's without knowing why.
Yeah.
Like, I know at the very least, they just didn't like the writing, or they didn't want that kind of show. But as an actor, it's like, yeah, they thought your nose didn't work.
Yes.
Or the writer or the producer always thought that person had blue eyes and not green eyes. And like,
wow,
you did nothing wrong. Like, your performance could have been amazing. You could have delivered a, Dinklage level performance, but doesn't matter. Like, they just didn't see it. And so, like, pushing through that wall and keeping punching, like, always forward, man.
Yes.
Thing I remember from fucking Luke Cage, like, wear a hoodie, always forward.
Yeah. And Frank, you're amazing. So shut up. I was like, Frank, I was able to pick this up the other day, and somehow I found time to get through. I didn't finish it yet. I got through most of it. And one thing is, I love kind of skim the end a little bit, not the ending of the story, but the sketching at the end where you talk about the artists. It's really cool seeing the put together and the lineups and how they got from point A to part B. But where I wanted to ask you was, I'm a big fan of Superman. The Batman just came out. We just got through a whole Infinity Wars with Marvel, and there was always a big bad. And the one thing that fascinates me, not to give away too much, the one thing that fascinates me is there really is no big bad, no antagonist. And because it's, 17 years in the making and based on your daughter somewhat, how did that work itself? What is the distance?
I very specifically did not want to do a story in which, again, not to spoil too much, but the manifestation of autism being bad. I didn't want to put a label or a
good choice. Very good choice.
Because I wanted to treat it more like it's a weather system, right? Like, like a hurricane can do a bunch of damage, but the hurricane doesn't have emotional content. You can feel a certain way about it, but it didn't do it. It's not the bad guy in weather. It ultimately, this wanted to be like a woman versus nature story and not a man versus evil story. And so to pull out that level of antagonism, to pull out that kind of antipathy towards what could easily have been, the dark side of the force, was kind of important to me, because I never wanted to portray it as a bad thing, because there are plenty of people all along the spectrum who love the fact that their brains work a little bit differently, who do not see being on the spectrum as a negative in their lives in any way. And I wanted to be respectful of that and mindful of that. Like, my experience with it is different than theirs. And I, as any parent will on the spectrum will tell you, that it's always a challenge learning to adjust to it. But it's a challenge the same way living in the Northeast will make Northeasters a pain in the ass. Like, you just have to live with it. You gotta navigate it. You gotta put your house on stilts.
We all feel attacked.
You gotta rebuild sometimes.
We got the trifecta of Northeasters too, and New Yorkers, so we get it.
There's gonna be a dumbass blizzard that's gonna fuck up your life every now and again.
True.
You just gotta live with it, because that's where you are.
Yep.
That's how it is.
And that's
no
how
matter
it is.
what you do, somebody's gonna find something.
There's gonna be something. So yeah, it was very much not about making it the bad guy.
Yeah, that's so brilliant. I don't think a lot of people would even if you did do that, you're gonna have those people that speak out about it, those people that don't understand it. But doing it the way you did, it's a way for everyone to dive into it and want to know more about it. And I think the bigger message is it makes people more interested into seeing like this is way more complex than we thought. Because when they say the word autism, they're very single-minded, track-minded people that don't know. But introducing a story where someone can enjoy and get into it and become interested in it, and then take the time to get to know people, because there are people out there you don't even know, there's different types of autism and stuff. So being able to single on your daughter and everything, I have to ask. I mean, I could see this going animation. I can see this going a lot further because I feel like the message could be reached out even further. Would you ever take it that route, or you think having it more of a more personalized experience through writing is the only way that this should be introduced?
I am of two minds of this subject, and I think it's it's a bit of the Neil Gaiman and the Alan Moore mind. Like Alan Moore, as we all know,
great names, yeah.
Who'd give a shit if anything gets adapted at all? And even when it does, he wants nothing to do with it. Right. Because he's happy that it exists on a shelf. I remember reading some quote where it's like, once a year I pick up Watchmen and I read it. I brew myself a nice cup of tea and probably conjure some eldritch demon somewhere to light the room. And he reads Watchmen, puts it back on the shelf, and and that's his life. Like I like that it exists. I don't care about the movies and TV shows. It's always the book to me. And then there's the Neil Gaiman version, which is I like this book that I wrote, but I'm also happy to have somebody else come in and reinterpret this thing. Like if somebody's got a good take on Coraline or Stardust, or now we'll see the Sandman finally, like, yeah, go for it. Like, do I want to be involved in it? I think so in some fashion. Do I need to be the guy at the head of the fucking ship? I'm not sure, because I've told my version of the story already. And it will always exist. But I would love to invite other people in to help me tell a different version of this story, a longer version of this story. But we'll see. Like I vacillate between those two extremes, sort of on the daily. But conversations have been had. More conversations are to come. But it's definitely not a thing that I'm closing the door on in any way.
Wow, what a great way to look at it.
Yeah. I like your interpretation of not interpretation, but I feel like so many people, when it is their book, their story, they're the one that wants to be in the head of it and take care of everything when it comes to taking it from paper to on screen. And I like how you're looking at it or want to deal with it is the interpretation part of it. It's a piece of art. I'm going to have another person interpret this piece of art, which is incredible.
Yeah,
it's a lot of beauty in that.
I've been writing it for a long time.
Yeah,
yeah. And it might be okay to let somebody else pick up the baton, and write it for a while.
So we got a couple of minutes here, and or a minute. Well, yeah, in a minute. I got.
Oh, okay.
I know you're traveling. It happens every time. Thank you.
9:45 ish.
Okay, we'll take you up on it.
You've touched a lot of properties. I'm 30. I'm going to be 37. So like my big three growing up was He-Man, which I know you worked on an episode of Revelation. So happy that they brought that back to life. Picard, Castle Rock, amongst other things you worked on. Is there a property that when you look at it, you're like, this is the one that I want to get my hands on? Like this is the one that I've want to do, and that's my next one.
If it doesn't spoil anything,
yes, if it doesn't spoil anything that's already out there,
puts a door in front of you.
Right. Every year or so, I will ask my agents and my managers and stuff. I'll be like, hey, who's got Conan the Barbarian?
Oh, okay. And you brought it up before. You said Conan the Barbarian before. Yeah, okay.
And so the answer is always like, well, these guys have the rights and this person is doing it, or this thing is happening, or but it remains the sort of white whale for me, in that it was very much one of those books that I read. Like the comics were my first comics. My dad,
wow, okay,
the loveliest, immigrant from Haiti, who did not know better than to give his 11-year-old son a Savage Sword of Conan book. and say,
I love him for it, though.
Thank you, Dad.
you might like this. And then I'm like my eyes wide as I'm reading, like, oh, this is everything I've wanted it to be. To then like discovering the novels and going deep in reading the books and the entire lore of Conan. Like there was something about being, a kid of color who was bigger than your average kid, who was always somewhat of an outsider, who never quite fit in, which is also the reason why, like, I love the X-Men. The X-Men were my entree into comics, was the teenage metaphor of, I don't know what's happening to my body. Wouldn't it be cool if they were powers? They were never powers. They just suck. But that idea of being able to identify with those characters. And so Conan was that person for me, was that like the outsider who never fit in, whose skin was browner than everybody else, who's, who stumbled through things and didn't know any better, but who still had a certain amount of intelligence and still had a certain amount of savvy and still had a code of honor that he stuck by. And so it's like a 13-year-old person, 14-year-old person beginning to decide who they were going to be, and how to kind of mold the ugly clay that was a teenage boy into something that might eventually become a halfway decent man. That was part of that formula. And so the opportunity to try and translate that to the screen in a real way, in a legit way, in a, like, let's make this about something and not just a guy who hacks and slashes his way to a throne, which is also fun. And you've got to have, because what's the point of Conan if there's not giant swords and, knives and teeth and climbing ice walls to stab dragons in the chest? Like, all of that needs to happen. But, for it to be about a person who doesn't fit in anywhere else, who's finding a way to break the world around him as opposed to adapting to the world.
Man, I want to watch that. I want to watch that.
So like that's the one that I just always check in on. I was like, hey man, what's happening with that Conan thing? Like, hey guys, can we look at Conan a little bit? If it happens, great. If it doesn't, just as good. Somebody hopefully will make a decent one. But
we'll be here for it. And if it doesn't, the world is your oyster. You can always write something very, very close to what you want. I mean, we will be here for it. Again, I love the idea, and I love how we say Black nerds, and because, growing up, and not to keep you too much longer, but growing up, it was almost like a sin for people to be a nerd. People used to insult you with that, or try to anyway. I was always the kid that was just like, thanks. Like I did all the sports and stuff, but I was always at lunch eating in the art room drawing because I made comics, growing in high school. And, I love who we are today. And I love how exception is like everyone's trying to be the nerd now, now we're the cool guys. So if there was one last message that you can give all our audience, and believe me, audience, we're going to try to get him back, believe me, because this is too fun. What do you want to put out in the world right now for all our listeners?
I think it's, and it's funny. I encountered this a while back, like 3 or 4 years ago, when I was lucky enough to be introduced to LeVar Burton, coming off of a plane, and like just being able to take that moment to say, LeVar, or actually Mr. Burton, because I don't know LeVar like that, so he's just Mr. Burton.
I just know his daughter.
I just wanted to thank you, because if it hadn't been for seeing you on Star Trek The Next Generation, it's like a 13 or 14-year-old kid, I would not have been convinced that there was space for me in this place, in this medium, in this genre. Like, and it's because of you, in great part, that I thought that I could make a go of this. And so I just wanted to thank you for being that person at the time when I needed that person to exist. And the thing that I want to, like, would advise people is, if you get the chance to meet somebody who means something to you, tell them that. It will make their day. It will make your day. And we don't get opportunities like that very often, to find a way to close that circle. And we live in these worlds in which we have access to people in ways we wouldn't ordinarily have. You can go to a convention, you can find them on Twitter, you can, whatever that is. But if you manage to cross paths with somebody who means something to you, don't not say the thing that you want to say, because it will lighten your load in a way that will make, at the very least, the rest of that day better.
Yes.
If not, the rest of your path a little bit easier to hoe.
Great words of advice, because there's often times where I'm in the same room with a celebrity and I'm just like, they're way more high status than I am. I don't want to bother them, and I try to always ask myself, why are they staring? Because I'm being awkward there, sometimes just breaking that ice is great. Oh my goodness. I wish. Yeah, go ahead.
Really quick story. And you can yell at us whenever you got to go, by the way.
I mean, he has to go.
Really quick story with that, by the way. And I live that. I was a huge fan of Robin Williams, and there was a girl I was trying to impress. I brought her to a Met game. I paid a lot of money for field level tickets, and they were filming with John Travolta, Old Dogs at the time. And when we were going down, we see all these people and cameras and yada, yada, yada. And then I guess a PA or something like that comes up to us. Oh, we're filming a movie here. We reserved a suite. There's like food, drinks, caviar, like whatever you guys want up there. And I look at her. She's like, yeah. I'm like, I look at Rob, I'm like, nope, we'll be down there. And I had when they weren't filming, he was the nicest person. He was so grateful. I got an autograph signed by him, a baseball to go with you were saying, like, I will never forget that moment. And I mean, I know he's passed right now, but it's exactly what you said. I hope I made filming for him easier that day, because it seemed like he was having fun, but I know he made a little, I was like 20 something at the time. I turned 11 again. Like it was awesome.
One of the most wonderful things I've ever seen at a convention. I was at a convention in the UK, and I was in the green room because I was a guest. I was a quote unquote celebrity guest, which, whatever. But I'm in this green room, and Benedict Cumberbatch was the big ticket guy at this convention. Yeah. And watching him sort of be incredibly nervous and a little bit bashful about meeting John Cleese for the first time.
Wow, okay.
Was like we are all a nerd for somebody. We all have somebody who's that person, which is, I would love to meet them, and I'm so nervous to do it, but now's my shot. And so I got to go and at the very least shake a man's hand because he meant the world to me. And that feeling that we've all got that person, from Dr. Strange to just, Dr. Schwartz who does your teeth. Like we're all fans, especially in this business. And so don't hide it, indulge it, in the best way you possibly can.
Wow. Thank you so very much for today, Mark. If we could keep you more, we would. But I will say we will be 100% hitting you up and being like, hey, you want to come back? But before you go, could you please give the audience all the information where we can find you, your podcast, your Twitter, whatever you want, so we can all follow you and see your journey?
Yeah, man. I'm at Marc Bernardin with a C. On both Twitter and Instagram. I don't do the Facebooks so much anymore for all of the obvious reasons. The podcast, Fat Man Beyond, is wherever you listen to your podcasts. And also it's on youtube.com/Kevin Smith if you want to watch the video versions. And that's it, man. I'm easy to find, just here working away.
Well, I already touched that Twitter button, so I'm excited to see the journey. Have a blessed day and be very safe out there, and have a great, hopefully warmer day, because it's cold up there at your convention. And thank you so much for joining us.
40 degrees yesterday, and I was not prepared for 40 degrees.
Oh my goodness. Well, I hope
not many people are in May. Oh God.
Yeah, the world is changing. Thank you, Mark. Have such a great day, and you'll be hearing from us soon.
Thanks, y'all. I appreciate it. This was fun.
Thank you. Wow.
Thank you.
Well, there you have it. There's Mark. Awesome individual. If you want more, please let us know. Leave comments. I can't tell you how important comments are. Tell your friends about the Twitter. We're able to get guests like that on. That was
amazing.
Beyond I could even.
It was amazing.
I needed that today. I think everything happens for a reason. I think stars align for a reason. I'm really deep inside myself today. I'm literally like, if there was a party going on inside of me, I'm the person that's ripping down all the streamers, and like literally just ripping it down and throwing it in a corner and stepping on it, saying you're not worth it, and I got to stop that. It's a very bad poison that is stuck inside me, and I don't have an antidote for it. I just kind of ignore it sometimes, And being in an entertainment business and trying to be something bigger than you are, with no brothers or sisters and no one to really look up to but the celebrities that you may never, ever meet, having Mark on the show was awesome. So Comixology, thank you so very much for trusting in us and continuing a relationship with us that we took a shot on. Funny. enough. It was just something that just happened. Shit. What a reality check. I was trying not to be emotional that whole time because it's good to see someone of his caliber to be able to take punches and keep going. Because I mean, I couldn't imagine being a writer. I mean, I'm saying this as an actor because I've had some really you develop tough skin, but the inside is always soft. Okay, so I can only imagine being a writer on big shows, big budget shows, only for people reviews and audiences to tear it down. You know, how do you go from there? I, I guess I could say with my little weakness that I would crumble if I saw something that I put my heart into just dissipate. You know, but you know we often blame ourselves for the craft. But anyway, holy shit, that was great.
That was amazing. And I mean, but that's life, man, right? Like he talked about rejection and knowing I'm nowhere near an actor. I know you've done a bunch of things acting, and you know, I related my relation to it is as a creator reaching out to people or reaching out to businesses and whether it's affiliates, whether it's sponsorship and partners, getting to know it's like, I'm not good enough for you. It's just no, or they give you this numbers answer and it's like, okay. It's still not the same, but there is some correlations there because every time I see that, it's like, well, I'm not good enough. I'm not.
Yeah.
It sucks, but I think everyone could do it. I mean, so many people are looking for jobs right now, but the things that he said were definitely inspirational. It kind of brings a lot of things home for at least me on many things, and obviously you as well. It seems like so. Mark, that was amazing, and I hope to definitely have another chat with you again soon.
Yeah, Mark is a great individual. It needs to be, you know, I'm glad, like I said, the internet exists where we can actually do stuff like this. Because, you know, if this was when he started, you know, 10, 15 years ago, we wouldn't have been able to have this conversation today. And he's worked on stuff that we've, you know, I mean, I was just started Legend of Machina.
Yeah.
And I was just like, God dang, this writing. Like I was literally saying that the first episode. I was like, I'm normally never impressed. I mean, even with like Moon Knight, I'm just not impressed with first episodes. It's just me. I'm just kind of sitting there like, it'll get good by episode 3, hopefully. You know, like that's just me. But Machina was just like an uppercut. Like it was like fading with the left. I was like, okay, I anticipate that. And it literally uppercutted me. And I was like, this writing is incredible. And I know everybody at Critical Role and I know what they're capable of, but when you put it in the hands of someone that can take it to extra distance, holy shit, you know,
it's wild. It's wild.
Yeah. So I'm also very, very excited to read Adora at the distance because
it's
fantastic.
You're gonna fantastic. You and Winter, if she sits down and read it too, I think you both really, really enjoy it. And I forgot to ask him what's next up for him? What is he doing? That's one thing I forgot to ask.
Yeah,
I mean, I know he's doing a bunch of things.
I think he kind of hinted at it, but I don't really like asking questions like that personally because that number one, they're NDAs, you know, and number two, even though he can hint at it, I like the element of surprise for people versus them saying, I was thinking about doing a video game, you know, but I don't know if, and then next thing you know, you hear a video game come out and you're like, oh, okay, that's what we talked about, this, that, and the other. But it's just like, imagine if you see a new Superman video game get announced and the writer's him, you're like, holy shit, I got to sit down and talk. What? Like, you know, and then you can bridge that gap later and be like, what? You know, so those are the things that I typically, when I'm like, you know, hosting or interviewing, I like to throw those to the wind because I try to ask the questions that not everyone asks, you know, because it makes, I mean, as you saw, he was excited to be here because typically when people are just like over an interview, they're just like, yeah.
That's what I like, dude. That's why I like this, the comic show. That's why I like you and me. That's the conversation. Like there's other shows out there for anything, whether it's something like this or something on TV or movie, there's always something else like it. But I think that's a huge difference is the way that we go at the questions and how every single guest that we have, from Mark to Scott to Mark, the other Mark Thompson, amongst others, they're, you know, they just turn into fanboys and just hang out and we just chat.
It's just nerds doing nerd shit, bro.
It's awesome. Yeah.
That's the whole point of the show, is to bring nerd culture to the forefront at the end of the day. I just happened to stick to a singular purpose of comics because it was just easier to pinpoint instead of doing all pop culture, because that gets a little out of control.
Pop mix. Nah,
Anyway.
it doesn't really work. So
Nah.
I was just thinking about this. So you're obviously New York. I'm New York.
Yeah.
Mark, we just talked about, was New York. Scott was or is New York.
Yeah, he's like next to you.
Yeah, no, he's literally down the street from me. Was Mark Thompson? I know he went to school in New York. Like, we've had actually a decent amount of guests that were actually New Yorkers.
Yeah. It's funny enough. Well, a lot of industry people thought New York was the place to be.
Yeah.
I mean, that before even Hollywood was like a big thing. All the big film schools, all the big directors, the people that are, I want to say the people that matter. Actors are a dime a dozen. You could literally pull someone off the street and they could be a hit. Writing and directing is something that marinates, over time. And a lot of those really great film schools you always hear about are in New York, not in LA. LA is like the end goal for most people. Or Atlanta now, I should say. But film schools is all the New York thing.
Yeah,
anyway,
it always changes. It always changes. And that's just that's good. That's good. If it stays in one place, it's probably not a good thing.
Yeah, I think spreading it out, especially across the nation, gives people more ideas, because a lot of people just give up on their dreams. But like, I'm not in New York or LA, and I'm not going to make it type thing. There's people that came out of all kind of places. I was listening to a interview with Elizabeth Olsen, and what a humble. She's so humble. I can't with her, man. Sometimes I'm just like, girl. She's
had an insane upbringing too, with her sisters and seeing all that stuff. But go ahead.
Funny, she doesn't ever really bring them up in interviews. And neither do the interviewees, because she's not a shadow.
And
if anything, she's up there.
She's her own. She's 100% her own, because even though she's always Elizabeth Olsen. I know I just brought it up now, but you never think of it that way. She is Elizabeth.
You know what? I never even put the two and two together. They look exactly like, she looks exactly like her sisters. She has the same last name. I mean, I just never bridged the gap until I was like, one day I was like, holy shit, that's a thing. But anyway, Elizabeth Olsen, very humble. Her and her husband just wrote a book. Everybody's getting in writing books. It was like a book comic. It's kind of like a graphic novel, so to speak. But it's for children. And it's about, I don't know if it's about ADHD. It's about something along those lines of something to teach kids about themselves in a certain way. I think it's like a detective type thing. I think there's something with ADHD in there. I can't remember what it's called off the top of my head. Something about the Curious Cat or something. I don't know. But she said like during the pandemic, that was something that they wanted to do. And I thought she did an absolute, we'll get into a non-spoiler talk about Doctor Strange. I thought she was the biggest star of the movie. I mean, Cumberbatch did his thing, but I thought that Elizabeth Olsen stole the show. That was just me. The power of a woman on a screen who can play, god dang. Anyway, just seeing her at the interview talk about how she got her start in New York. She's and they were like, how did you even get into business? She was like, I didn't want to wait tables. That was her reason. She did not want to wait tables. She was like, she just had a really bad experience about, going into a job, and she just didn't like it. She didn't like how people were looking at her. She didn't like the idea of having to answer to someone because the customer's not always right. And she hated that idea. So she tried acting and writing, and that's what she's done. And here she is today. She also explained about her contract not being, it was never a 10-year contract. It was never a 3-year contract. It was literally show to show to show. And that's a new thing that Marvel's trying now, because they don't want to lock people into contracts for multiple reasons. They want to leave it up to the choice of the actress and actor, or they've already built their dynasty. Now they could just, pluck away at it. And a lot of actors lose opportunities because of Marvel locking you in for many years.
Yeah.
Especially I always do this. Anytime an actress or actor has a star-stellar performance on a sequel and they don't have their own movie, I have to ask, will they be around? Or will they be in, will she still be in MCU, or is she moving on? And she says she's personally not done with the MCU. That's what she says. But her contract is not one of those that are, solid. So every time she's done with something like WandaVision or Doctor Strange or whatever, she thanks the people around her as if it was the last. But she knows she could get the call at any time. So that made me happy. And the reason why I brought that up is that Elizabeth Olsen and how happy she always is, and when she interviews, she's just a pleasure to interview. She always has that in the back of her mind. Will she get hired for the next event? And dealing with stuff like that has got to be hard, especially as an actor or actress. You hope that you land the $1 million billion dollar deal to where you don't have to worry about that stuff. But when is it ever enough? And the same thing I asked Mark, I don't think there is. I don't think there is. I think you're always, if you're a person of craft, a person of passion, those goals will just end up being stepping stone to milestones that you hit and you move on. I don't think I'll ever be satisfied with, hitting a certain goal. I mean, I'd be happy in the moment, but I think I'd move on to the next one,
Yeah, there's something about comfortable, complacent, or satisfied that just there's never something good with it.
Satisfied sounds settled to me.
Yeah, and like you think of comfortable in a relationship, that's generally not a good thing, or comfortable in a job. Sometimes could be not necessarily that good. Like there's just so much rough edges around those words that are scary. I mean, same thing as streaming. I mean, I'm comfortable in streaming. I don't know if that's a good thing. It's
the ing versus the ed.
Yeah,
if that makes any sense. I'm okay with something being satisfying. Yeah, but I don't want to be satisfied. Because to me that's like an end. It's like I'm satisfied. Well, I'm done. No, this is a satisfying moment, but I want more. I'm always hungry. I always want to do this. Because until I can't do anymore, I want to at least lay on my, goodbye bed as I don't have any regrets that I didn't do this, because that to me, that's what scares me more than anything. It's not the process of leaving this earth. It's the idea that I'm leaving this earth with regret. So anyway, I didn't mean to get deep on you guys, but
that is deep.
Moving on. Let's talk about Doctor Strange. I'm going to bounce around a good bit on this because let's just go where we're going to do a non-spoiler. So don't worry if you're listening, you don't have to mute the podcast. We're not going to go over anything that you did not see in trailers and or did not hear about via press release stuff. There's still a lot. I will say this. There is not a lot of surprises in this film because they gave it to you in teaser trailers. Not saying you saw the whole movie in the trailer. I'm just going to say that it's a fun movie. Yeah. It is a Sam Raimi movie. Go in knowing that it is 1000% Sam Raimi. It's like the fun that he had in Spider-Man 2, he had it here.
Yeah.
But it's not as Evil Dead because Spider-Man 2 was Evil Dead City. But anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, it does have some.
Yeah. There's aspect.
Yeah.
No, yeah. This was very much what you saw is essentially what you got, plus a little bit here and there. It's kind of like No Way Home when it came to the advertising and getting it out there. I mean, we kind of knew where certain things going.
I would say we knew where No Way Home was going, but they blew expectations out of the water. I feel like people expected one thing and then got way more than they thought they were getting their money's worth.
Okay,
that's why I feel. Just based off of reactions. I hear what
you're saying. Yeah, even
like
with
you
everything,
know what's coming, but when it comes, you're like, holy shit! You know, yeah.
No, you're right.
Huh. All right, I like that.
Yeah, I mean,
it's more like that.
Yeah, there was definitely a lot of moments. Now that I'm thinking about it, I was like, huh, that's interesting. Or it caught me like was questioning things. But like you said, overall, I did it. It's a Marvel film. I enjoy it. The one thing for me, I think I enjoyed the most, funny enough, was that it was a Sam Raimi film. I feel like if this type of film with anyone else now after watching it, I can't imagine it. without it being directed by Sam Raimi, just because of certain aspects in his style with the camera. It was, for me, it was really cool. It was really cool.
It was. I'm glad he didn't go over the top with it.
Yes.
I was very afraid of that.
I mean,
there were some things where I was just kind of like,
dude, like, but I almost pissed my pants at one scene. Like I knew it was coming, certain thing was coming, and then it came, and I still like almost pissed myself. Like I was like, what the? It was perfectly done. It was perfectly done, that specific scene. But
I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. I'll tell you after. But yeah, overall, it was fun. Benedict Cumberbatch is Doctor Strange. He
embodies it.
He embodies it. It's incredible. Elizabeth Olsen as Wanda Maximoff or Scarlet Witch absolutely stole the show. She was the best. She was the best part of it. I mean, the multiverse was cool. The multiverse was cool, but Elizabeth Olsen was cool. I want more. We had her in WandaVision. I'm gonna tell you,
man, WandaVision evolved her, bro.
Yes.
I don't think this film would have been as good, especially for her, if she didn't already do WandaVision, because all the elements she learned with WandaVision, how to play certain ways, really aided her in this movie. Because my God, did I feel so many emotions for her. I was like, I love you, I hate you, I want to cry. Be my mommy, step on me. Like, it was so much stuff. Yeah, man. I don't know, man. It was something about anyway. You can hex me any day of the week. Dude. Okay. So I'll talk about a scene that you already seen in trailers. It's a scene with Benedict Cumberbatch and Elizabeth Olsen walking in a field. I'll just say that change. I was like, oh shit. You know, like the visuals was wow. I really loved it. It was just like
that.
I can be this, or I can be this.
Yeah, you know, and I was just exactly.
Like, I kind of sat back. I literally reclined a little bit in the chair. I was like, now I'm ready. You know, like I knew it was coming, but now I'm ready. But I didn't expect it this fast. You know, like it was awesome. How did you feel about American Chavez?
So I was actually about to say I loved Wong in this. I like how we're getting more Wong.
Is great.
He's
a great
his name
is actually Wong IRL.
He did an interview.
What the freak? His name is Benedict Wong.
Like, what? What? It's wild.
Kind of funny.
He did an interview where he was going out for the role. I forgot where it was. He was going out for the role, and he was doing a what do you call it when you go out for things and you're trying to push for it? Like president's
campaign.
He was doing a campaign, Wong for Wong, because he wanted to be Wong. So he was talking about it, and like he went to it, and he was like, he went to another actor. He's like, just no. Then he called up. It's like Wong for Wong worked, but anyway, I love how I love how they're getting him more and more screen time. We got his presence in Shang-Chi, which is really cool.
He's not just a jokester, you know.
Yeah, he's.
Like, I really like that they gave him some more serious,
especially at the end, how it works.
Oh, but yeah.
Elizabeth Olsen once again stole it for me. American Chavez had me wanting more.
I liked the actress. Yes. I did not like the writing they did for her because I felt like they didn't do her justice.
She was a
lot of screaming, a lot of
a Robin sidekick from an old Batman. It reminded me of like corny jokes here and there about food and then she's
it was very homecoming
Batman
for me.
saved me in that sense. Like I
very
needed
very Disney. She was Disney. The film wasn't by far.
Yeah, once again, she's great. She's great.
Yeah, she's great. I think she's casting wise. I think they did a great job. I mean, she has a look. Attitude. I don't think they gave. See, in the comic book world, they didn't do American Chavez right in the beginning. So I don't know how this was taken in by Mexican Americans. That's something I really want to know about. How did they take her? And I really wanted to read what my very critical friend Kate wrote, but I was afraid to because I was like, I don't want to change my outlook on how I feel about the actress and her role. But I don't want to close the doors on American Chavez till I see more, which we are going to get more. Young Avengers is absolutely going to happen.
Yeah, we're right around the corner from that.
I need to see her maturity. I did not like her development.
Yeah.
if I had to be picky, but I didn't.
No,
I didn't mind it because she wasn't the. She was just there. She was kind of like a catalyst to the story, you know. So,
absolutely. When we got more information, it was kind of cool because it was you know it reminded me of comics and things like that. But definitely wanted more from it. For
Thank God they put that in there because I was feeling zero emotion for her.
Yes,
I was like, just it's Elizabeth.
It was like halfway through, right? That's when you kind of get the okay, got it.
Right,
good.
I feel a little bit
sense.
for her. Yeah. It was kind of like, it was that Thor thing. It was literally that Thor thing that I felt. I was just like, when I saw Thor, I was like, yeah. I mean, it's Chris Hemsworth. I guess he's great to look at, and that's. And then I was just, I just don't feel any emotion for him. And then next thing you know, I was just like, boom. I was like, okay, I feel for Loki first, now Thor, and then it just started chronologically panning itself out.
Yeah.
So
it was like Thor. It took like 3 movies to kind of it. Even Dark World was like, eh. So getting to see hopefully more of her and maybe showing up in different shows.
Yeah, now that she can travel,
will help us. Yeah, now that she can travel and you know, we're definitely getting to the Young Avengers. I mean, we have her, we have Hawkeye, Kate Bishop, we have Kamala Khan, which is literally less than a month away at this point.
Florence Pugh. Might as well enjoy her because she's going to be in it.
I mean, she's awesome. Florence Pugh. And wait, I'm missing. Oh, and we don't have it yet, but it got pushed. Yeah, there was one thing where you got to talk about 2 movies just switched for Marvel. It was Quantumania and something just switch swap. But there's
Thunder? No, and then like July, June. I can't remember.
Well, July is the next one. It's a month after essentially GCX, but yeah, Quantumania has Cassidy Lang. Is that their daughter? Ant-Man's daughter, Ant-Man and Wasp's daughter, Cassidy Lang. I think it is.
Yeah.
But she's gonna be another one. I mean, we have it all. No, Quantumania is a movie. Yeah, Quantumania is, and the main protagonist is Khan. Star Trek. Kang. Yeah.
I thought they would make that a show. Oh, Loki season 2 is being filmed right now.
Yes. Them and Ahsoka just started filming. First day of production was the other day. Yep.
Were we confused about Loki? We were. Yes, Loki was the one that didn't. No. Hawkeye. Hawkeye's the one we were confused about. Loki got confirmed season 2 like 3 episodes in. We don't know about Hawkeye. We still have no
idea about Hawkeye right now, unfortunately.
It seems like Jeremy's still on board. I don't know. Interesting.
Maybe they're waiting to announce that. Like my hope is that they're waiting to announce it, and he's going to be the Iron Man of it, right? He's going to be the Tony Stark kind of looking over the Young Avengers. Maybe I don't know. Maybe. But maybe that's why they didn't want to announce the season 2 because they're going somewhere else.
Captain Marvel's still there.
Plus, you also have to think that they got to work so many things in, right? Now you got Daredevil. You know, they've already confirmed that they're working on and they're pre-production on all that stuff with Charlie Cox and writing room and everything. So they got that in the works. And who knows, whatever else, right? Like there's,
I don't know.
You know, that was the other one. Moon Knight isn't confirmed for anything.
And also we have, after these 10 years that was already confirmed, we have another 10 years of MCU.
Oh, that was awesome. Hearing that was awesome.
Yeah, Kevin Feige was like, I ain't going nowhere. I mean, why would you? It's literally the only thing that's being shown. So funny enough, the dude that played in Moon Knight, what's his name? Wild? No.
Oscar Isaac?
No, the
Big Bad?
Quote unquote. Huh?
Big Bad?
Yeah.
Ethan Hawke
was in an interview. Funny enough, I'm surprised he even went to Marvel in the first place because he had a very negative thing to say about comic book movies in general. How he doesn't really like them because he feels like it's the only work that you can get. I mean, let's just be real. Nobody gives a crap about what's in the theater besides comic book movies, with the exception of everything all here at once. So,
yes. Did you see it?
No. I'd rather watch that at home.
Okay.
Because I'm a big martial arts fan, and I know some of the guys that are in it, and I just don't. Yeah, I don't want to be in the theater for that. Because I get really annoyed. I was really annoyed in Doctor Strange. We had some very obnoxious people in there.
No, I'm sorry.
I just, seeing it on the big screen it's very nice to get out the house.
Mm-hmm.
But it's even more annoying when you see people, especially without masks on, coughing all over the damn place, acting stupid, saying bad comments, don't even know a thing about film. It's just really, really bad. safe bet she gets the 6th episode. Chavez, I think Chavez needs TV. I think she needs TV. But anyway, there's so much I want to say about Doctor Strange, but we can't. So we'll just leave it at that. It was a great, fun movie. Definitely a fun Sam Raimi movie. We can tell he had a lot of fun with it. I will do it's not really a spoiler, but if you were looking forward to it, I'm just going to go ahead and say it because I hate the idea of him even being in it. Tom Cruise is not in it. I'm just going to say it. He was never going to be in it. The people, the way the rumor happened is a director, it might have been Sam Raimi, said, wouldn't it be cool to have Tom Cruise in there as an alternate version of Iron Man? But stars didn't align. Tom Cruise was working on many a different, a Mission Impossible 7 and 8 or some shit. He's shooting both of them at once.
On them, yeah.
Yeah, and he doesn't have time for it. I think that if it would have started off as Tom Cruise, I would have accepted it.
Yeah, Paul just yelled in our ear, Top Gun, which is actually getting phenomenal reviews. Like, just get me in the danger zone again.
Top, yeah, that was a big movie.
Maverick. It's called Maverick. Excuse me.
I think Top Gun made him. Honestly,
he did a lot of good movies back then.
Yeah, he did. I mean, Tom Cruise. I watched Tom Cruise jump over someone's head and do a split. This dude is 50-something years old. Anyway, he's wild, dude. And the guy's like 6 foot. He's wild. He's like, honestly, I think if Tom Cruise was introduced as Iron Man, I would have accepted it hands down, and I probably wouldn't accept Robert Downey Jr. in his place. I honestly think it took a while to think about that. And I was just like, yeah, I would have accepted Tom Cruise if it started off as Tom Cruise. Because now in my head, I'm envisioning him with the cut and everything. And I was like, he was actually the original Tony Stark in the comics. Now that I think about it, like they looked exactly alike. But my mind got shifted when Robert Downey Jr. was put in there because I'm like, yeah, I see it. You know, because he was a combination of both. So
yeah, interesting.
Will I accept it now? Probably not.
No. What? Because I had an interesting take on it when I left, compared to having some thoughts, having some time to think about it. What now? Like out of 10, what would you rate it coming out of it?
Doctor Strange?
Yeah, Multiverse of Madness. Yeah.
I would say for only seeing it once, I'll put it at 8.5. It wasn't my favorite MCU film, but it was a good time. And I was looking for a good time. I wasn't looking for a favorite. I think as in terms, it's definitely top 10 for me. I don't know where. The reason why I say that because the stellar performances from I'm heavily putting this on Benedict Cumberbatch, Benedict Wong, Elizabeth Olsen. Those three on screen were beautiful. The amount of work that went into making this film, the amount of work, everyone knows that there's multiple Doctor Stranges. So let's just say there are multiple, the how he had to flip the switch and act with himself that wasn't there, that was someone else, and still bring the same energy. Same thing with Olsen. Phenomenal. I think they did an absolute phenomenal job. And if I had to just rate it off of them alone, I'd say 8.5. As a movie as a whole, I would say around an 8. Because a movie of that magnitude is hard to do within the time limit they did it in, which was like 2 hours.
Yeah, it could have, that was one of my complaints was it could have been 20 minutes longer. Yeah. And I would have been happy with it. 2.5
hours, I believe.
Yeah. There was just so much, they crammed so much in so little time.
Yeah.
But that was one of my things. I came out, I was like, okay, you know what? This was a 9. And then after talking about it and thinking about it some more, and I had so many questions, I was like, you know what? This is actually like more of like a 7. But I'd probably keep it around the 8 just because if you focus more on those 3, that's really where it is. Yeah, I don't know. There's certain things spoiler wise that I don't think.
We'll get to those. We'll get to the spoilers.
Well, I don't think it's necessarily a spoiler because
no. I'm just saying in general. We'll get to the spoilers.
But one of the main things was when you got out of WandaVision to where Wanda is now. That was one of the things that just confused the hell out of me because they didn't explain it.
Really?
Well,
I wasn't confused at all.
Well, I mean, this isn't a spoiler. Like at the end of WandaVision, she's happy. She leaves
she's not.
No. She has a smile on her face. She says goodbye. She was content.
No,
content. Yes.
that smile
Go
was
back
not
and watch
content.
the end.
That was not a happy smile. That was a I'm okay on the outside. Inside, I'm fucked. That's what that was.
See,
Bro, the scene was set up with her children. That scene ripped me. I was like, oh, she's done. She's off the noodle box right now. And the fact that she technically lost vision too, and she found out her whole life is technically a lie. I mean, there was a lot of shit that can screw a person up to make them feel like I'm good. No, I'm not. Type thing. And I thought it played very well into the movie because if you saw how they introduced her, that's immediately what I went to. I was like, oh, what are we about to get here? What is about to happen? Think about it.
Oh, dude, I just put this together. What happens if that Agatha series is going to be about them two and her with the dark side, where it's really her kind of teaching her that stuff? Because I mean, she is the Scarlet Witch. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, she is. I think that ass kicking back and forth between her and Agatha kind of flipped the switch and gave her memories and blah blah blah. I think Agatha is going to have her own thing. Granted, in the comics, Agatha does sit down and train her, in hopes of using her. But I feel like, without any spoilers, we know why she's the way she is.
Yeah, no.
Like they beat it in us to the point where I was tired of it. Like they literally beat it in us. Because it's like, who's Vision to you? Is he not important? Like I literally was asking that question. So I was a little confused with that. I honestly thought we were going to get some of him. But anyway.
What about him? That was another thing. I can't.
So we're not done with her. There's no way in hell she's done with her.
It is
too many unanswered questions.
I can't. It would piss me off based on some of the conversations we've had in the past. If for some reason she doesn't come back.
Okay, I'll say this. At the end, there was a red boop that was very apparent.
Yes.
So you already know. Yeah. I'll just put it to you like that. That's just, when I saw that, I was like, oh, okay. Because that's hella obviously apparent. Like, Marvel doesn't, think about what's her face? Widow. We were like, there's no, they didn't do anything with that. They just let her, okay. How does Marvel confirm stuff? By showing you the body. Every single time. They show you.
Yeah, they do. You're right. Anyway. You're the people that have come back. Yep.
But anywho,
an interesting point.
Great. I enjoyed the movie. I thought it was, especially coming off of the the movie that shall not be named that shouldn't have never came out to begin with. Coming off of that as the I hate that it's Marvel, Sony. I was excited to have a good time because I knew I was safe. And I think that's such a great word that you use, Nigel. The movie felt safe and fun. It was a safe route to take. It was like something that we can't really mess up because all the stuff is there. We worked so hard to build this up. Was it like, oh my God, I don't think we're there yet. I think that's coming. I think this was an informational movie. It's like, we want to let you know that there is a multiverse and this is how we're going to handle the multiverse and show you how dangerous it can be. But we're going from there.
Oh man, and they also beat in our head what could potentially be next too, with a lot of different things, which if that happens, I'm all for it because not only will it be fan service, but it's something I think we would all
there's definitely multiple stories coming.
See. Yeah, there's definitely multiple stories coming. But I was just looking. So yeah, speaking of what's next and coming off of the Thou Shall Not Be Named, we do have Miss Marvel June 8th. Well, we have Obi-Wan in like a week and a half from now, which I'm really excited for.
Oh man, the hype is stupid real behind it.
It's actually less than 2 weeks.
How do you feel about that? Like the hype is, dude, I think it's too hyped. I honestly, like they got Anakin, I forgot his name, old man Anakin on, what's his name? Kutcherson?
Aiden Christensen, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, they had Adrian Kutcherson, I'll say that wrong, on an interview. Interview was horrible, by the way. I hate to put it out there. If you look for it, prepare yourselves. We're talking about puppies and sheepdogs having sex. But anyway, past that. Yeah, he has a farm. He's really proud of it. I'll just say that. You know, first of all, I can't believe how much older he looks now. For some reason, I just thought that guy never aged. I don't know. Like just to see age on him, I was like, you know what it looks like? It doesn't look real. It looks like makeup age. When I see him, I still see young Anakin, and I don't know what the heck. It's like, what is going
it's hard.
on?
Yeah, it's hard to kind of get away from it.
Open. I'm not used to this. Yeah. But anyway, Hayden Christensen. Okay, my bad. I completely. I don't know why I thought his name was something else.
I think you'd said this before when we brought it up too. It was the same exact way. Yeah. That's what it was. So Quantum Mania is now coming out in February, which used to be Miss Marvels, whatever that movie was. That got pushed then a couple of months later to July. So that was the change up. I thought it actually had to do with Wakanda Forever, but that's not. But yeah, the rest of this year we got a bunch of things, including Wakanda Forever. We got Thor: Love and Thunder, which I'm really excited for now too. The more I don't know
what to think about it.
There's a lot of stuff going on.
It looks like a musical. I don't know what to think about it. I don't want Chris to go out like that. I need him to go out with a bang.
That trailer leads you. That trailer leads you to believe something, but I don't know. I don't know, and I hope not. But you actually, Paul yelled in our talked to your ear about this. That is true. We brought up the multiverse, and we brought up the same in each universe. The same person in each universe essentially turns out the same, right? But how do you do that with the Scarlet Witch? How do you do that with Wanda being a Nexus being? I have questions with that coming out of this movie. Like, the Scarlet Witch is supposed to be one. Now, is it one in every universe? Is it one period throughout the multiverse? I have questions.
You have a Scarlet Witch and you have a Wanda.
But if you look at what if a Scarlet Witch or is what if Wanda? Because that is canon.
What if it's a Wanda?
And it is, but is it the Scarlet Witch?
It's a Wanda that's a Wanda that is broken by love.
But her powers.
The powers never changed. The powers were always there.
So there is more than one.
Wasn't there.
So there is more than one Scarlet Witch.
What makes her Scarlet Witch is, like they explained in WandaVision, is the knowledge of all the witches of the past and all their powers put together. Her powers were always there. That's why she reacted insanely weird to the Infinity Stone and all that stuff. And oh my God, I was about to say something. They made a point in the movie to point out a difference between humans and the I'll say supernatural. That way I don't spoil anything. She said literally, there's a difference.
Yep, you're right. You're right.
Yeah, and there's a reason why such and such person, like there was a reason why, and I think that's the caveat, and that's a pull towards something being more, like there's something more to this world that we just don't understand. And then with the cameo at the end, it all makes sense, which I was really wild about. I was like, what?
I was, I mean, that it wasn't the best.
I mean, I liked it because it was like, okay, so Cumberbatch ain't going nowhere. I like that part, but he signed when there was like trilogy signings.
Because he's only been he was in the Thor film, he was in his own film, he was in the two Avengers film. Yeah. And now he's been in and Spider-Man. So he's been in 5 or 6 films. So
Spider-Man was like a
not part of the main
compromise
contract
thing. Yeah. It wasn't part of the original contract. So he got paid extra. It makes sense.
Next week we'll be able to talk a little bit more.
It makes sense comic book wise. But I felt like that was a little too fast, but okay. A little too fast.
Yeah, okay. I got you.
But in a real world situation timeline of
chaos,
what's going on in our heads, this is taking years, right? But in the MCU, it's taking years, but a smaller amount compared to what we're taking it as.
And they took a time jump. They're technically 2 or 3 years ahead of us still technically. We're 2022, they're 2025, I think.
We did get confirmed, and I will say this is a little tiny itty bitty spoiler if you care. Okay, so mute if you want to. We did confirm that I mean, I'm not gonna be like I was right, like it was monumental, because it was just obvious to me, but it wasn't obvious to a lot of people. Spider-Man does exist.
Oh yeah,
the events that happened in No Way Home is very apparent, and people know about it. Like it's
they've talked about it after the fact too. They talked about it in interviews and everything. So
people were confused that Spider-Man didn't exist, and when they see him slinging in the air, they'll be like, "Oh, who's this guy?" You know, no, everyone knows Spider-Man. They just don't know who Spider-Man is.
No, they know who Spider-Man is. They don't know who Peter Parker is, and they don't know that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. So, like, no one knows who Peter Parker is.
That's what I'm saying. So what I mean by they don't know who Spider-Man is, they don't know how. Yeah, they don't know Peter Parker is Spider-Man.
I read it as who's that guy? But
no. That's why I set it up and I said it's not like they don't know who that guy is. They just don't know who is that guy. You know, they don't know who's behind the mask.
That was a pretty cool back and forth. Actually, I laughed at that, and Wong and her saying certain things was actually pretty cool.
Yeah. And then they reintroduced like the technology that he already. It was really interesting. I thought, doing multiverse is very dangerous. Doing timelines, time jumps, time skips, time travel in general, writing wise, it is just really. It's really hard.
Yeah, time travel.
Because you have to have your shit together. You have to make things make sense. And I thought they did a pretty damn good job. I mean, you're not going to go into this film and be disappointed. Whether you should watch it at home or watch it in a movie theater, I think something with all the visuals, I think is really nice on the big screen. IMAX it if you can, if you're a fan. If not, watch it at home. Watch it at home.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be out. I mean, at this point, relatively soon on Disney Plus or something like that. If they're sticking with it, it'll probably be 45 days, so the end of June, and it'll be here before you know it. I mean, that will definitely be here before you know it.
Okay. Also, funny enough, Elizabeth Olsen is a comic book reader, believe it or not.
That gives me more questions.
She said, in an interview, she said, "I'm not trying to take credit for this at all." She said, "When I first got casted as Wanda," she said, the first thing I told the directors and just told the producers and everybody that I would love to do a House of M, because that was her favorite arc. She said the whole idea about having kids and people telling her the kids are not real, and her going, bunkers. She was like, she just thinks that it's just something there that needs to be given. And I was just like, "Ah, dang, look at you. Look at you." That's another check mark for me for Elizabeth in my book.
That's kind of Nightshade too. Like it makes me even more intrigued to see where they're going to go with certain things, because I still have no idea where they're going to get there. But that'll be for next week's episode.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, I know we went. We didn't discuss the new comic book announcements or anything of that nature, but those are fillers, because at the end of the day, there's a lot to unwrap. We haven't really had a solid show, but we wanted to come back on a solid show that we knew we had, especially a guest.
Yeah, fantastic guest. Thank you again, Mark.
Yeah. Just to do a quick wrap, we had Marc Bernardin on the show, and if you don't know who he is, you definitely know his work. He's touched something that you've watched, so whether it was He-Man or Legend of Vox Machina, Carnival Row, Star Trek. He did multiple Star Treks, but Picard recently.
I think Splinter. He wrote just about every episode in that season.
Static Shock Comics, if you're into it. I actually forgot to ask him if he knew Nick, but I'm pretty sure he does. Nick does the art. Adora in the Distance. Go check it out now. You can go on Comixology and get your Comixology subscription. By the way, it's very cheap and gives you access to like over 50,000 comic books. I mean, you can't go wrong there. And if you have a Kindle, guess what? You can rent up to 10 comics for free. So definitely go off and do that. Thank you again, Comixology, for supporting the channel and hooking us up with such great interviews. And we may have something down the pipeline further in the distance. In the future of comics will be revealed at some date. So you might want to keep an eye out, because there's no spoilers on that one.
And because you all have Prime, because you're here on Twitch, maybe even the people listening on the podcast, it is actually free through Comixology to rent with your membership if you have Prime. So it's free. Come on,
10 books,
go.
And you can switch them in and out as well. You know, if you
good service, man.
If you have a Kindle, and Comixology and Twitch Prime, I mean not Twitch Prime, Lord, Amazon Prime. It's a good marriage right there. So definitely get into some comics, read your favorite comics, let us know what you think. Now, the most important thing, the homework for the week is to follow the channel and to follow the damned comics Twitter. That's at the Comics Show. At the Comics Show. Please. We're going to be really taking this by the bullhorns and going in on it. So I can't stress it enough how excited and how much we've been working behind the scenes to bring you guys something pretty amazing. Other than that, thank you so much, Paul. If you notice, the show has been in a different format. That's because we have all producing the show now. So yay.
Thank you, Paul. Yay.
We have crystal clarity. Look how beautiful we look on screens. 1080 HD graphics going on right here. And Matt is free of having to push
break
buttons.
Everything. Yeah, everything.
But anyway,
I'm good.
Matt, you want to wrap?
Yeah, absolutely. Once again, thank you, Mark, for coming on. Thank you, Comixology. It was awesome, and we look forward to hopefully doing some more things in the future together. As far as all of you out there, obviously, Frank said it. If you haven't yet, go check out Multiverse of Madness, because we're going to be going spoiler into that next week. Follow us on the Twitterverse at the Commix, COMMIX show, at the Commix, COMMIX show on Twitter. Hang out with us over there. As far as myself, fun week ahead of us. Going to be playing some video games. Going to be chatting, sipping some coffee, and opening up some Pokemon cards, most likely. Birthday is in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Frank, how about you?
God. You can find me mentally breaking down on twitch.tv/technique. No, E. I'm just being honest. It's, I'm going through some shit. I'm trying to figure out myself on Twitch again for the 4th time. Is not fun. So if you want to support me, come by. If you want to only come by during like extreme high moments and high vibes, watch VODs. That's the best I can take. Other than that, Twitter, definitely follow me on Twitter. I don't really post any depressive stuff on Twitter. I typically try to keep that as hype as possible. So twitter.com/technique TV at Technique TV. And that's Technique with no U, no E, just a Q, and put a TV at the end. That's where the good stuff is. And look forward to some awesome interviews coming up and more great moments, and be a part of the show by submitting questions on the Twitter or comments. Anyway, other than that, thanks very much for joining us for the Comic Show episode 41. And as they say in show business, that's a wrap. We'll see you guys later. Join us next time on The Mix.